What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today. As promised, we're going to do a team-by-team preview of all squads going into Major 3. We're going to do 6 teams in this video, the next 6 in the other video, and then we'll finish it off. Third video, giving my bracket predictions in the eventual Major winner. So getting that out for you today. It's like Monday night or something like that. I'm procrastinating on packing while doing this video. So let's dive in. We're going to start kind of top to bottom. We're going to do sort of the contenders, and I can't get through all of them in this video. In the next video, we'll kind of do all of the sort of dark horses. So let's start off with Atlanta FaZe and talk about their Major 3 chances. So Atlanta FaZe, coming off their Major 2 win, had a pretty straightforward and easy schedule relative to other teams for this major qualifying cycle. Playing Florida, LA Thieves, London, Vegas, and OpTic. They went ahead and in classic FaZe form, somehow managed to finish 3-2, beating the 3 teams they should beat and losing to the 2 teams that are also contenders. So not really sure what to think of all of that. In the 2 series that they lost to both Thieves and OpTic, they lost all 3 respawns but won the search. So I think pros and cons. Pros is obviously FaZe just continues to just be on this crazy search streak. I think they're on like 11 in a row now. S&Ds, I mean, they just like final and dominant in that game mode. And it's not to say that like, I mean, if you look at the score of any of these S&Ds, 6-1 against Florida, 6-1 against Thieves, around 11 is CeeLo against London, a 6-2 Mercado, and a 6-3 is CeeLo. So they're winning the searches other than one by like a pretty good amount. Don't look to be slowing down there. It's really the hard points that have been a problem for this team so far. We can take a look if we scroll up here. Even at stage 2, like it's not like they were playing that great. In a hard point 6-9, but the 12-3 in search and 6-4 control have been kind of helping them out. This major cycle so far, 2-5 in hard point, 5-0 in search, and 3-2 in control. So the one big weakness is the hard point, Embassy being the only map they've been able to win. They've had a bunch of tough Mercado losses, getting smoked on Hotel. I did a podcast this morning with Coach Crowder. Obviously, go check that out on his channel if you've not done so already. And, he spoke to the fact that, they are like 2 or 3 major kind of macro things that they need to work on. In hard point, they think they're getting a little bit too far ahead. Need to kind of get back to establishing some of the base rules they have, and they're going to work and see what they can do over the next couple of days before they pull up this event. But I don't expect their hard point to be like super stellar for this event, but that's okay. They're one of the contenders and probably the betting favorite still because of how dominant they are in search. Even with the shaky hard point, they've been pretty good in control. This team will always find a way to stay alive in series, so they are looking good. And I wouldn't say for me like the team that's most informed going this event. Again, I think betting sites probably had them as a favorite, but they're probably like, for me, probably the 2nd or 3rd team in terms of form going this. Maybe I'm being too high on that. I mean, there are other teams that have played really, really good, like Seattle. We'll get to them a little bit later. But overall, for FaZe fans, nothing really to worry about. Again, with this team, it's a marathon, not a sprint. They're not really in danger of not qualifying for champs. They look good, and then every one of these tournaments are usually making it to the weekend. I just don't think they look like super dominant. And unfortunately for them, they are going to have to play LA Thieves in the first round of the bracket. I mean, like pretty much every one of the bracket matchups is difficult on the winner's side, but that one in particular against the team they just played in Major 2 finals and beat, and just played in the Major 3 qualifiers and lost, will be an interesting matchup. And that's going to be your final one on Thursday night. By the way, I do want to also kind of do one more thing about Atlanta FaZe before we move to the next team. Slasher having a really good major cycle. I think a lot of people were very critical of the pickup earlier on this season. They've now won an event, and Slasher's hardpoint number is a little bit iffy, 0.9. Needs to find a couple of more kills there, but in general, obviously they're not winning hardpoint. So, there is that. But the search and destroys, he's been money. The controls, he's been money. So, like what we've seen from Austin so far, he seems to be fitting in well with the squad. So I wanted to tip him there because a lot of people give like a BZ, MC, Simp gas, but I want to give some Austin some gas on this video because he's been playing pretty well for the squad. All right, next up we have the LA Thieves. And unlike their opponent in the first round of winners bracket, and their, the team they came runners up to in Major 2, they had a little bit more of a trickier schedule. They had Vegas, obviously they played FaZe, Seattle, Rocker, and Boston. And I would say for Thieves, with his daunting schedule, getting on a little bit of a 3-game win streak in the middle of this, book ended by losses to Vegas and Boston is pretty good result, all things considered, for Thieves. They've not always had the best of times online with this team, but it seems like with this stage, they're starting to get more comfortable in their sort of compound environment, as opposed to just being kind of the team that's sort of animals. I think things that are good for Thieves is they look great in control in this split. I think hardpoint has also looked good. I mean, you're going to drop hardpoint maps at this point in the year. Situationally, that's just how it goes. I will say for Thieves, though, the biggest weakness I think is the situational play and S&D. And look, like, I get it. Their search record's really not that bad. 3-2 right now in stage 3, 6-4. In hardpoint, 3-2 in control. I want to highlight this Asilo map here, and we're going to flick over real quick and take a look at some stats. And I just kind of want to break down for y'all, like, the sort of issue here. So we take a look. This is my guy Turtle's spreadsheet, so shout out him. You see that Thieves is 4-8 at this game mode. And I think in particular where they've been getting into a problem is this number right here, right? We're getting 50% of first bloods, which is pretty good compared to the field, right? But you see league average first blood win percentage on this map, 68.23%. 58 for LA Thieves is just not really going to cut it. They are not doing a good job in these 62 rounds where they are getting first blood of going ahead and winning those. The number needs to be way higher. And you can kind of see that maybe offense might be the issue for them on this map, right? So they're winning 30%, they're getting first blood in 36% of rounds, which is slightly below average. The league average of win percentage when you do get first blood on offense is about 72.4%. And they're at 45. So that's not great. League percentage, plant win percentage, right? You plant that bomb, you get it down. We're winning. You should be winning 62% of the time. They're only at 51. And in particular, when we talk about Asilo, we talk about the A site in the middle of the map. League average, if we scroll down here, is 63.87%. For Thieves, they're only winning 48%. So in general, this is a map that they have played a lot of. It's going to get played in a lot of the big team series that they play because there are a lot of teams that are comfortable on it. Thieves has certain auto vetoes they came Mercado that they're not going to play on. So Asilo is going to end up a lot in these series, and Thieves need to just figure out how to play their situationals a little bit better. That was a problem the team had last year on, say, a map like Tuscan, and they kind of cleaned up at the end, and that's why they won events. They're going to need to do the same here. They're really good in the rest of the game modes. I think that's the one weakness and thing I'm looking forward to seeing if they can improve when we get to the event. I will say one other final thing about Thieves is we take a look at this breaking point page, and I have highlighted here just the stage 3 matches. So they played on hardpoint maps. The slaying looks a lot better in hardpoint right now for Thieves. This is our big concern. In the beginning of the year, they were around like a 0.95 overall KD on the team. They seem to have rounded that around a little bit better thanks to, I think, elevated performance from Kenny, who's played very good in this split. You know, he was kind of struggling for a minute. He's playing much better. 127 search, 101 in hardpoint, and you see sort of the engagement numbers, the kills, like he's doing a good job. And look, not Soaking Hill, but that's okay. You want Kenny making plays. He's a playmaker, just like Envoy, just like Draza. And so though, you know, Draza, Octane, Envoy, all kind of split in hill time right now, with Kenny kind of pushing out. So I think Thieves kind of have things in rhythm. His S&D KDs are whatever. We'll see kind of if it steps up. But I like where the respawn's at. They're just not the best of search teams compared to some of the top teams, but that's okay because I think this team always finds way to win. They obviously made a very good run in the losers bracket, and either them or FaZe is going to have to do it because they play each other in winners round 1. So that should be exciting. This team is definitely one of my top squads, regardless of the win or loss. Winners round 1, I expect this team to make it to the weekend and be a contender. All right, next up, we're going to talk about the team that I don't think any opponent in this tournament wants to play. They're the team I think that's probably coming in on the most form. They've only dropped 5 maps during the stage 3 qualifiers, and that is the Seattle Surge. Had a very, very, very poor Major 2 cycle, aka getting dead last. So they turned that around and have come in as your hottest team. Couple things right off the bat, like they have picked up where they left off in respawn. Hardpoint control doesn't matter. One of the best respawn teams in the game. Their biggest improvement now in this stage is the search. I think they've taken it to a new level, and they're not just winning it on one map. They've had wins on Embassy and Hotel during this split, which you like to see. So they've got teams like 2 bread and butters on the search side as we take a look at the overall kind of map stats for them during this split. And there's just really no weakness that really stands out here. Like they play every hardpoint map except for Mercado. It's an auto veto. And like I said, Hotel and MSC look to be the bread and butter in searches. They had 1 loss on Asilo, but they may have to play that at some point, so we'll see. And in the controls, they played everything and they're good. So to me, it's like, bro, I like, there's one team in this entire tournament that I don't want to face right now. It's this team. Maybe OpTic's the only other one just because, you know, they're at home and all that stuff. But man, if I am their opponent, aka the Los Angeles Guerrillas, I don't know how I'm feeling about this series, also considering that LAG's kind of been on a little bit of a hard point slide as late. So we'll cover LAG in tomorrow's video. But yeah, I think the only thing for me maybe with Seattle has been this year, game 5s have been a little bit of an issue with them, but they maybe are turning it around just like Boston is because they're getting a little bit better at search. So we'll kind of see how that goes, but not a lot of weaknesses, or really any weaknesses right now on the Seattle side. And in particular, like if we take a look at the stats for Seattle during this major qualifier cycle, like very good across the board. Obviously, search KDs are insane. Pred is putting up MVP numbers right now. 1.13 in control, 1.79 in search, with 18 first bloods in 5 maps. That's wild. And he's doing a similar 127 in hardpoint, with 44 engagements, for 24.8 kills per 10. Like, oh man, Pride is setting pace right now. And you see more improved numbers from Lamar and Mac, who have struggled at times in respawn. But you love to see that. I think Mac is still sort of the X factor on this team, with this number. But he's been playing really good in search, which that 143 is nothing to sneeze on in 5 maps. So like what we're seeing from the Seattle squad, excited to see them pull up this event. I think they're probably going to walk over their first round matchup. Now they are on the top side of the bracket, so they'll play whoever wins between FaZe and Thieves. And that one's going to be an absolute heater on Saturday afternoon. So yeah, Seattle's one of these teams right now that I think, if I feel confident, other than probably like, now, I'll say they're probably the team I feel most confident in being winners finals right now. I haven't done my bracket prediction yet, but they might be doing this preview right now. They might be my favorite for this event. We'll see when I do that video, but I like where Seattle's out at, and I feel pretty good about them making it deep in this tournament. Another team that seems to have improved their S&D is in New York Subliners. Again, just like Seattle, they didn't really have the best in Major 2 cycles. They didn't play that good online going into the event, and they had all those travel issues. And while they did get top 8, I don't think that was the placing that they were looking for. So coming into this Major 3 qualifier after a really poor performance, especially in S&D, they're another team that's really turned around the search. But unlike Seattle with this sort of record you see on screen here, they're a little bit more up and down, right? Good game 5 win against Rocker, although Rocker 0-5. And we'll talk about them in tomorrow's video. 3-0 Florida, 0-3 by Toronto, 3-0 OpTic, 0-3 by Seattle. So not sure what to think about the last 2 weeks for this New York team, because they've been so up and down. You see those good spurts and those good series against Florida and OpTic, but you know, Ultra and Seattle are contenders, and you got absolutely 3-0 smoked by them. So it feels like maybe there's a little bit of an inconsistency there. And if we take a look at their overall map record stats, you know, weirdly they've had some issues in hardpoint. This has been a really solid respawn team most of the year. You see like below with the game winning stats in 1 and 4, like they're winning 60% of hardpoints right now, like an overall 24, I think, in 16 record, which is pretty good. This stage, they're 2 and 4. They had 2 tough losses on Hotel. They lost to Fortress. But on the other side, Control looks fine and the S&D looks good. So New York's like the team that's kind of the hardest to handicap going into this tournament, because I think they're good, but it seems like they're kind of day and night right now. So I don't know. It's just kind of hard to, it's hard from my end to really kind of understand and comprehend this sort of record. And I've watched a lot of VOD, and it's just, again, it's like the way that they play, and they play so fast and so quick that sometimes they're in the timings and they're on, and sometimes their teamwork's off, and it's going to be really hard to deal with going forward. So I'm curious which version of New York we're going to get when we get to LAN. And if we take a look at their overall numbers during the stage, no one's really having like a bad stage per se, so I can't really point to much of that. Obviously, a couple of these S&D KDs are not good. We'll see how that evens out when we get to LAN. But you look at like respawn, that's fine. The control is fine. So it's just an enigma team, man. Like they were 500 in map win record, 3-2 in series win records. Just not sure what New York team we're going to get. Now their opponent in the bracket is going to be Toronto Ultra. And they're actually going to be first match on Thursday. So we're going to see them right away in this tournament. If they do win that, they'll play against Boston in New York. I will say, you know, if you look at the bottom side of the losers bracket, which where they would drop to, they lose. They play Florida, and then they play like either Boston, OpTic, or London in the next round. So I feel pretty good about their chances of getting kind of deeper into the tournament. If they don't play their game, though, I can see them getting top 6 in this tournament and not making it to the weekend. But if they play the game that we've seen in those matches when they've been on, like this is a team that can beat anyone else in the CDL. So excited to see these guys on LAN, but not really sure what to expect, to be honest, based on the last couple of weeks. All right, let's talk about OpTic Texas, and they probably had one of the hardest schedules during the major qualifier for this stage. They had to play LAG, Toronto, Rocker, New York, and FaZe, and like off the bat, coming off of last event, like you looked at Ultra, Rocker, New York, FaZe combo, like that was a really solid set right there of top 6, top 8 teams. And I got to tip OpTic, like they went 3-2 through the stretch. They had a couple of nice wins. The FaZe win, when they were on the verge of not making winners bracket on Sunday, was really nice. The 3-0 against Rocker was clean, but they had duds against New York. They had duds against Toronto. They needed to grind out a game 5 against LAG. And honestly, from my opinion, I think LAG probably should have won map 4 and taken that series 3-1. So I think this is an OpTic team that, with the roster change, is still trying to find their form. I think our biggest criticism when you watch this team play is they're very free-flowing and they're a little bit ego-chally, and this gets them into situations where they do a little bit too much, throw away their lives, throw away search rounds, and they just play undisciplined Call of Duty, and it gets them into a lot of trouble. And we take a look at their overall map win record, and there's a couple of things to speak on here. I just kind of want to give you things to kind of watch for this team going into the LAN event. Hardpoint looks good. I think in general, even with the up and down kind of stretch they've had here with the 2-3-0s, I think they've been really, really good in this game mode. But the other two have been a little bit questionable. It looks like their search has kind of fallen off. They don't really have, or haven't really won in their map other than a CeeLo so far in this stage. Obviously only 6 maps, so it's a small sample size, but one to monitor in regards to their S&D right now. And in general this season, they've actually really struggled in game 2s, going 8 for 13 in game 2s, under 40%. They've been money in game 5s though. So they won 7 out of 8. So just, I don't know if there's a weird dichotomy there with sort of them winning first map and losing second map, but icing up on game 5s. But just something to watch. The control here, 2 and 3, is very interesting. You know, we talked a lot about OpTic last season about how hard they fell off in control after the Major 1 win. And if we take a look at the overall control rankings this season, OpTic actually near the bottom right now in this game mode. So they have a lot to work on there. Like, again, they're not the only top team that's just sort of near the bottom of the league right now. In a game mode, we just talked about FaZe, and like, for example, with FaZe, like they're right now bottom 4 in hardpoint. But for OpTic, I think they're going to really need to work on this control swing mode kind of situation right now. I saw some tweet earlier today that like teams that are winning the control in a series are winning well over like 70% of their series when that happens. So if OpTic can get that swing map under control on LAN, use their home crowd to their advantage, I feel very good about their chances going into this event. So I think one thing in particular is just take a look at the stats here for OpTic on the individual standpoint. And they just picked up Dan, and his numbers aren't all that great. 0.93 in control with the second lowest engagements on his team. 0.81 in search, not the most active player, and a 0.86, and the engagement numbers are really low. We talked about this on the flank, and there's a couple of things been going on here. One is I think he's trying really hard to kind of gap fill on this team, and I thought that Parasite made a good point. He needs to play a little bit more selfish, because I think he's just trying to do a lot on the map to make this team good, but isn't focusing a lot on his individual game. So I think I think for me, like, the second thing is I think people just need to take a chill pill on this. They played just online COD at this point. I mean, you had other players be uncomfortable in this team. Bruce with his 0.96 was actually like a lot lower before the weekend, and he was really struggling playing out of the Dallas office, was playing much better from the Hex quarters. So I think this is going to fluctuate a little bit, but Dan's kind of the player to watch, is sort of the X factor on this team right now. And if he can kind of find the right fit, I think also for him too, right? This is his first time playing main stage at a LAN event in front of a very raucous crowd. They're going to have that home crowd in front of him. So the coaching staff, JP, the organization, the players need to help him get comfortable, because if Dan could start going off, bro, then you got 4 players in his team that can take over, and they're going to be very dangerous going into the bracket. So they play Boston in the first round, and I feel pretty good about their chances in that series, but Boston's also been winning game 5s as of late. But that being said, I feel like Boston's the kind of team that might get intimidated by the crowd in this first match. So I feel good about OpTic's chances, and then they're going to square up with Toronto or New York, and that's going to be a tough match. So my kind of guess for this OpTic team is, I think top 4 is like the floor for this team in this event. I think even with the crowd, and even if they don't bring their like A-game COD, I think they can at least make it to Sunday. I don't know if they get past the first couple of series on Sunday to grand finals if they're not playing their A-game. But this team is playing anywhere close to like a good level. Like, they may make grand finals. It's purely off the momentum of being the home host. I've said this a lot about these sort of top teams already, but this is one in particular that plays a really exciting brand of COD, and curious to see with the crowd how they do when they pull up. Well, they don't really got to go that far. When they drive about 20 minutes down to Arlington and play this event later on this week. So let's finish up this video by talking about OpTic's opponents, Boston Breach. This is another team just like OpTic that's coming and dealing with a roster change during this cycle. Methods retired OpTic, so funny storyline there. And they have brought in Ben Beans from their amateur team. And Ben had a rocky couple of series. That first weekend wasn't really super kind to them, but they actually went 2-0 that week. They grinded out a fun one against Toronto and beat London. And then since then, they beat LAG, lost to Florida, which was surprising, and then just grinded out one against Thieves in a pretty dominant final map. I know it's just hard point of CeeLo, but that was actually a S&D, a CeeLo. I just kind of recorded incorrectly on the sheet. But a lot to like for Boston, man. A 4-1 record for them in this split gives them a top seed. In fact, I think they'll have the higher seed over OpTic. So we'll have veto advantage in this series. So taking a look at the team records here, like they are dominant in control right now. Again, parlaying sort of how they have played so far this season in that game mode, and they're near the top teams on that. These records are a little bit screwed up. It should be 4-3 in S&D with this Asilo moving over here. There's no Asilo hardpoint. 5-4 in hardpoint, pretty good. They're playing all the maps. Embassy looks to be like the one they're not trying just yet, but they've got some bread and butters in Hotel and Hydra that they can lean on here. And the S&Ds have been solid. And I think in particular too, we talked about game 5 with this team and how much they've choked with Zen. And I don't think that's necessarily Zen's fault. I just think the team obviously wasn't icing up game 5. But with Ben, they're actually like 2-0 now in game 5. So something to watch there with this team. When we talk about KDs, there's a couple of interesting things here. Reese Vivid's having a pretty lackluster major qualifier so far. A 0.7 in control. His S&D numbers are fine. 0.95 is fine. But a 0.77, so the respawn's not looking good for Reese. If he needs to turn around if they want to go deep in this tournament. But his sub duo has been doing pretty good. A 1.32 in control is wild. 1.34 from Big Wake as well. Nero's also doing it in search with the 1.14, and a 0.88 isn't great, like a 0.9, but in general looks like just their slaying hasn't been that good as a team anyway in hardpoint. So that may be a product of them still trying to figure it out with Ben Beans. But overall, I just thought that was interesting that Reese is probably sort of like the X factor now on this team and needs to find a little bit of consistency. Big Wake's still doing his thing. And Beans, man. Obviously, they're all kind of struggling hardpoint slaying-wise, but search, man. 1.13, 1.31 rather, and a 104 in control are really nice numbers. So I like Boston's form coming in here with the 4-1 record. Obviously, they got to play the home team in front of that crowd major 1. That's a tough draw for them, but if they can get deep in this series, get towards game 4 and game 5, grind this out. I like their chances with this team as opposed to their last team. What they can't have happen is the last time they played OpTic on LAN, the last time they played with Zen, where it was an absolute chokefest after chokefest after chokefest, and they got 3-0'd. That's just not going to fly. And this crowd is going to sense that blood in the water. So they need to be a factor in the series. And I think if they beat OpTic and face Toronto and New York in the next round, this team's going to have a lot of confidence and be very dangerous. So my guess for Boston is they're going to probably be in the top 6 mix. I still want to see a little bit more from them on LAN before I feel confident about them making it deep on a Sunday, making it Sundays in general, but they can get there. We just got to see it. They have the talent to do it, but not everybody's going to be able to do it. And right now, if I take a guess, I think they're going to fall just short and get top 6 again. But they could shock me and win this event, and I actually wouldn't really be that surprised because the talent is so good in this team. And it would be a great victory for the project they built. Getting a tournament win like 14 months after forming as a team. They just picked up the spot last year, so it would be really cool to watch and see what they can do during this major. And so, yeah, that will do it for this video. We covered the first 6 teams. We'll cover Toronto and LAG on the winner's side in the next video, as well as the 4 teams and losers: Vegas, Rocker, London, and Florida. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow. Let me know in the comments what you think of this video. Like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more, and we'll see you guys on the next one.